Stephen Amell, you have failed Twitter. This is Kneon, this is CLOWNFISH TV. We're going to do a follow-up to a video we did yesterday talking about the damn near hourly, it was daily, damn near hourly cancellation of a lot of celebrities. A lot of celebrities who, I guess, fancied themselves as being very progressive, as being allies. They're being canceled by the kangaroo court of Twitter. Stephen Amell, of course, the actor who plays Arrow, is getting canceled. He's being called out by some people on Twitter. He's being accused of racism and propaganda by people on Twitter, including Image Comics author T. Franklin. Now, we're going to back this up a little bit. And we've talked about all the cancellations at the CW. There are at least, I think, 2 actors on The Flash that are being kind of targeted for cancellation. Hartley Sawyer, of course, who plays Elongated Man. He has already been canceled. He has lost his job. And the actor who plays The Flash, Grant Gustin, he actually condemned co-star Hartley Sawyer. He told him, he was very, very ashamed of him for saying things on Twitter 8 years ago, and we're going to put the scarlet letter on you, and BTFO, you're out of here, you're off of The Flash. And there was another actress on The Flash, Danielle Panabaker, who was, and again, I'm probably mangling these names. I don't watch The Flash much anymore. I watched the first 2 years of it, but I don't follow it very closely. I don't follow the Arrowverse very closely because I think it's boring. But this is really interesting stuff. So Steve Amell actually came out and supported the public tarring and feathering of Hartley Sawyer, right? Stephen Amell tweeted support for Grant Gustin. The 39-year-old Toronto native tweeted in support of Gustin after the Flash actor condemned co-star Hartley Sawyer for past social media postings that denigrated women, minorities, and gay folks, calling him one of the most thoughtful guys I know, and saying he was supporting his friend, supporting the cancellation of someone for 8-year-old tweets. Well, now, this actually took place before Stephen Amell supported the cancellation of Hartley. Stephen Amell got in trouble himself for being tone deaf in the court of Twitter. The court of Twitter said he failed. He failed this social media platform. This is coming from Bounding into Comics. Prior to the outrage surrounding the Flash stars Hartley Sawyer and Danielle Panabaker, Stephen Amell was one of the first in a string of actors from DC's shared television universe to face backlash from their fan base. Fans accused the Arrow star of racism after sharing his personal thoughts on the recent protests. On June 1st, Amell published the latest episode of How'd You Do It?, a relatively new weekly podcast hosted by Amell and Knocking Point Winery co-founder Andrew Harding, in which the two sit down with a leader, entrepreneur, educator, activist, politician, actor, writer, elite specialist, doctor, or athlete, and ask them a dozen specific questions about precisely how they accomplished what they're known for. Why is everybody doing podcasts now? Everybody's doing podcasts. You know, you're not going to go Joe Rogan. I think he sucked up all the money. I don't think there's any money left for you guys, but it's worth trying anyway. The episode was initially set to feature a guest appearance by Grant, but after Amell announced that the Flash star had postponed his appearance after feeling with everything going on in LA, maybe this wasn't the appropriate time to spend 45 minutes talking about how he became such a giant, lovable television star. I probably would have backed out too, if I'm being honest, because I'm like, yeah, you know what, it's probably not a good time. Amell and Harding discussed the preceding weekend of pain, protesting, and nationwide outrage. Fans quickly took issue. By fans, we mean people on Twitter. People on Twitter quickly took issue with many of the discussion points brought up by Amell in the podcast, including his admittance that racism is a systemic problem, but I'm not as familiar with it just because I haven't seen it in action personally. Okay, that is his personal truth, isn't it? That's his personal truth. He has not experienced it himself, so he can't really comment on it because he's not affected by it. It doesn't mean it doesn't exist. it means that he himself has not experienced it. He said for him personally, police brutality has been overshadowed by gun violence simply because that doesn't really happen in Canada. Here comes Twitter. Starting with his mention of Grant saying he didn't find it appropriate to spend 45 minutes talking on a podcast feels very passive-aggressive, and Grant is correct, but that's still what they did. Well, here's the real problem. The real problem is he supported cops. Yeah, that is his crime, and that's where this whole thing gets very, very sticky. I think most people would agree that racism is a problem and that America current year should not be racist. I don't think very few people would take issue with that statement. However, where things seem to be dividing on Twitter is police. There's a bigger push for the eradication of police, and celebrities are absolutely jumping on that bandwagon. A lot of celebrities are. Twitter absolutely is, because Twitter is full of a lot of activists, far left activists. So of course they are on board with the idea of dismantling police departments. That seems to be where it's dividing. The left right now is yes to police reform or yes to dismantling cops. So Amell's his sin is that he said that there are some good cops. That is what he said. But actually, a pretty non-controversial statement. I don't believe in racism. I can't comment on it because, being a white dude from Canada, I haven't been on the receiving end of it. And by the way, some cops are good. So here comes the Twitter user Cleo but brain dead. Well, it's not just Cleo. There are a bunch of Twitter users who dogpile on him. Then we go into this wild moment of him saying he isn't familiar with racism, then talking about that and gun violence not happening in Canada. Here's 2 minutes of him thinking good cops exist because he's met them and seen propaganda on Twitter. That's what they're calling it. I was not familiar with the term propaganda until they accused Hugh Jackman of being a propaganda apologist, apparently, because he put a photo up of a white cop hugging a black protester and basically saying this is the goal we should be working toward. But that's not the goal that some of these activist types want. That's really not what they want. And they will tell you that. And if you disagree with them, they will cancel you. Amell explains, I think one of the shitty things is, you and I, through Knocking Point and through these parties and just in general life, we've met a lot of police officers who are really great people. And I've been noticing on Instagram and Twitter these various police chiefs thinking about the one in Flint, Michigan. I believe there's one in Houston as well. They're putting down their batons and their weapons and they're marching with everyone. And they're saying, look, we can march. If you're going to step out of line and you're going to wreck things in our city, we're not going to stand for it because this is our city. You see the emotion on their faces, and it would be really tough to dedicate yourself to a job that's as perilous and dangerous as law enforcement, be passionate about it, and have it ruined by a few bad apples. Yeah. I mean, we're at a place right now where we've got Lego canceling all police sets. We've got Cops being canceled after 33 years. I didn't even know Cops was still on the air, to be honest. But you know what I'm saying? Because this anti-police sentiment, it's not anti-bad cop, it's anti-cop. And it's blowing through Hollywood. This is what's going on. So now, a lot of these studios, a lot of these, TV stations, they're freaking out. And they're basically just canceling all cop-related everything. So basically, cops are canceled at this point, by Hollywood, by studios, etc. They don't want to go near it. Now, it's really interesting because I actually retweeted a video by The Rock, Dwayne Johnson. I thought he actually had a pretty good speech. And he was very even keel. He called out Trump and said, look, we need leadership right now. He called out other leaders and said, we need leadership. Where are our leaders? We have to be our own leaders. But he also supported police. He said that I support peaceful protests, but I support police when they have to, step in when things get out of line, that he doesn't tolerate looting. He doesn't tolerate violence. Nobody called The Rock out for that. They just zeroed in on the fact that he was anti-Trump. They did not call out that he said, yeah, and by the way, I also support police. and also support action being taken against looters, etc., etc. But, he's The Rock and he makes a lot of money, so nobody's going to call The Rock out. Plus, he could pile drive your ass, Amell adds, when I say a few bad apples, that could come off as trivializing it, could come off as a little pippy, talking about percentage of people in law enforcement who are effing ruining it for people who, frankly, the majority of law enforcement should be celebrated and they should be lauded and they should be paid more than they're paid. And I think it's a real shame that the name of law enforcement and some of the vitriol that good police officers are having to deal with, male, female, black, white, brown, doesn't matter, that aren't part of the problem but are identified with the problem. That is a problematic statement for Twitter. It seems like a very middle of the road statement. Like, yes, there's absolutely racism. Yeah, there's a problem with bad cops, but no cops isn't necessarily the answer, and it's a disservice to all cops when you paint them all with the same brush. Amell expresses his desire to protect the local mom and pop convenience store from potential rioters and looters wishing to avoid seeing it burn to the ground. Again, Twitter finds it problematic. Him talking about wanting to round people up to go stand in front of a store to protect it instead of going to a protest. He wants to protect his friends. Following the publication of the podcast, some fans, no, not fans, Twitter kangaroo court, Twitter lynch mob. That's what these people are. The Twitter lynch mob were quick to cite its content as evidence that Amell was an outright racist. Stephen Amell, you have failed Twitter. Here we have Carolyn, I hate racist Hines. Stephen Amell ain't been shit for years. He's a racist, misogynistic douche, and the CW protected him. Let his moment of reckoning finally come too. A couple of you unfollowed me after my tweet this morning, so I'm going to say it again. Stephen Amell is a racist, selfish, effing a-hole. If you don't like it, then bye. How did everyone miss that this man is a racist? It's not like he's been hiding it. If Stephen Amell didn't learn anything about racism working 8 years with a black person by his side, it won't be in just one day that he will learn, especially if he doesn't want to. After all, he never saw racism happen, and he knows a lot of good cops. A prominent accuser of Amell's was Image Comics writer T. Franklin, who asserted that Amell had been showing us his racist ass ways for quite a while now, and his wife. So T. Franklin has failed this country. I was making that joke. She made that joke for me. Fuck Stephen Amell. He's been showing us his racist ass ways for quite a while now, and his wife. Also, Grant Gustin ain't absolved because he definitely didn't support and speak out for Candace. Again, you can't not say anything. You can't try to play it down the middle. You can't try to say, you know what, this conversation is above my pay grade. And even if you agree with 95% of what is being said, if there is any deviance whatsoever, your heresy will be ferreted out and the Twitter lynch mob will come for you. Your best bet, celebrities, is to stay the hell off of Twitter. Stay off of Twitter. It's not your friend. This particular accusation garnered a response from Amell, who stated that if you need some or want me to help better understand, hit me up and we can chat. You nailed me. You totally nailed me. I hope. Well, he was actually a little snarky. He was like, you totally nailed me. Hope that makes you feel better. I just followed you. So if you need something or you want to help me better understand, hit me up and we can chat. Basically, hit me up in DM. However, Amell's request for private and sincere dialogue was met with hostility from Franklin as the author continued to further accuse Amell of racism and condescendingly fell back on the tired rhetoric that it was not her job to educate him, while also conflating her personal relationship troubles with her grievances against Amell. What? I'm not the only black woman that's called you out. So I know you've had these conversations. Silence is complicity, while playing ignorant is ludicrous. You're a father and someone in their 30s. You're not new to racism, and if you believe Toronto isn't racism, that's your privilege. I shouldn't have to help you understand the things you do and say are harmful. These are things that are learned behavior. When you learned your privilege from white folks, I learned I wasn't shit, wouldn't be shit, and deserved to die because it's what your people taught me. Well, escalated. I'm not sure why your tone is condescending, but I'm not beat for it. That hope makes you feel better, ain't Steven? Nothing I do or say when I call out racism makes me feel better. I just ended my friendships with white comics creators over racism, and I feel shitty. Well, okay. So we're dealing in absolutes at this point. Franklin has since continued to accuse Amell of blatant racism while downplaying her own role in the ongoing controversy. She downplayed her aggressive accusations as simply responding to keep it moving and acted surprised when Amell chose to no longer engage. You can't say anything to people who are out to get you, to lynch you. Even if you apologize, it won't be enough. You apologize twice, it won't be enough. 3 times, it won't be enough. These people will not be satisfied until you are completely taken off the board. They want you out of the picture. And then they will move on to the next victim. That is the end game here, Stephen Amell. And I think he honestly did the right thing. It's like, clearly T. Franklin has a lot of grievances. And she's taking it out on Stephen Amell. I don't know why him in particular. Maybe because he was there. I don't know. After calling Stephen Amell out, he wanted me to educate him via DM, not in public. So he followed me. I refused because I'm on my trampoline. I respond and I keep it moving. Here we are 12 plus hours later. His avatar is black and he no longer follows or responded. White privilege is wild. Maybe it's because it was clearly a one-sided conversation and you went in guns all blazing, and maybe it's a conversation, you know, more people need to have. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about this. People don't want to talk. They want to shout. In the fact that I think she wouldn't deal with him privately meant that this was for show. This was, let's drag him out in public and make sure his ass gets beat down by the Twitter mob. That is my personal opinion. And I would do the same thing. I'm going to be honest. You know, there are some people who have tried to start trouble with us on Twitter, and I ignore them because I'm like, I know what you're trying to do, and you're not taking my scalp today. Thank you very much. It's not going to happen. T. Franklin has failed this country again. Just to be perfectly clear, the irony of Stephen Amell demanding a verified black woman verified because it's blue check. We'll talk about that too. We'll talk about how Twitter is verifying people in a minute here. Demanding a verified black woman to educate him on the day that's supposed to be about amplifying and supporting black voices ain't lost on me. Amell knew what he was doing. He had no intention on responding or learning. The Bingo Love author, I've never even heard of that. I don't follow Image Comics very much, though. I'm sure I'm probably blocked by her anyway. The Bingo Love author has also taken to unironically demanding that any news outlets who reported on her publicly available tweets, such as IMDb and Us Weekly, pay her for the use of said tweets in their articles. That's not how this works. Question: did you get paid for writing that article about me and Amell? Are you getting paid to write about my tweets? I highly suggest whatever money you got gets deposited in my Cash App. Here it is. This isn't a request, though. I need to get paid for my work because I wrote that article with my tweets. So is Bounding in the Comics going to pay her? I don't think so. I don't think they're going to. I'm just gonna put that out there. Y'all gently remind her that she's getting paid because of me. Now she's calling out the author. Were you paid to make this article on IMDb? Oh my god. So here's what? Okay, so here's the thing with blue checks, and this is a general thing. Twitter is no longer for real people. Let's be very clear. Twitter is no longer for real people. Twitter, the reason Twitter is such an echo chamber is that the only people who use Twitter currently are journalists and activists and people with strong political opinions and brands. That's it. Real people, like everyday people, don't use Twitter anymore because it's a toxic cesspool. Okay? It's a toxic cesspool constantly on the prowl to cancel you for every little infraction. And, you know, again, Geeky and I, the more we've been talking, she's not in this video because she is so drained talking about Twitter. We are seriously considering just burning down Twitter. Like, we're not even going to use it anymore. Or if we do, it's going to be very sparingly, because 95% of the drama we've had on YouTube has followed us from Twitter. You know, it's like, I'm not even going to play ball with these people, because I know what they're after. I know what they're trying to do. And, you know, it's not even a game worth playing. And these celebrities, my strongest suggestion to studios and celebrities and brands is get the hell off of Twitter and let Twitter eat itself. You know, I was looking up online shaming on Wikipedia, and it's so weird. The article actually talks about online shaming being torture. It's a public shaming. It's like religious cults do. Online shaming takes many forms, including doxing, revenge porn, calling out negative reviews, etc. Journalist and documentary filmmaker Jon Ronson, I almost said Ron Johnson. Jon Ronson has compared modern online shaming to the racks. You know, it is. They talk about it in a very negative fashion on Wikipedia. It is basically the Scarlet Letter. It's basically harassment. It is mental abuse. And even in Wikipedia, they're calling it as such. It is. It's like the Middle Ages, where you put somebody in the stocks for whatever infraction, real or imagined, and then you toss tomatoes at them and let the crows, you know, take a shit on their ears. That's basically what this is, and that's what they want. They want mob justice. They want a public lashing. And once you're done, once they've completely destroyed you, they will just move on to the next victim, because they are literally on the prowl 24/7 looking for victims. So get the fuck off of Twitter. Just gonna bring this up too, since we were talking about Batwoman. The producer explained not recasting Batwoman. Like, just get rid of the CW at this point. Like, it's being burnt down, you know, right before our very eyes. Like, there's nothing left of the CW. All the stars are problematic, and Batwoman quit. Why are we doing this? But they said they actually did consider recasting Kate Kane. They had a couple of episodes written, and transition-wise, it would be a seamless transition, since they already started breaking down season 2. But upon further reflection, Greg Berlanti helped me make the call. He's way smarter than I am. He's like, you know, I think we should just reboot the character in terms of reboot Batwoman as a different character, just also to respect everything that Ruby Rose put into the Kate Kane character. I think it helps the audience a little bit too, that we're not asking them to not address the elephant in the room. I'm inventing a whole new character. In her past, she was inspired by Batwoman. She's going to take on the mantle, and is completely maybe not the right person at the time of doing it. That's what makes it fun. Well, maybe it'll be fun. I don't know. But it's like the Arrowverse is done. Just the Crisis on Infinite Earths was the end of the Arrowverse. Let's just leave it. Leave it before we get more celebrities canceled, because it's coming. So I'm going to wrap this one up. Please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants, and we'll talk later. Hey guys, thanks for watching Clownfish TV. Please consider supporting the channel. Go to clownfishsupport.com. That's clownfishsupport.com. And if you want to join our community, go to clownfishtalk.com. That's clownfishtalk.com. Please subscribe, ring the bell for notifications. We will talk to you next time.